everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial from the realms of Kill Team, specifically from Kill Team Nightmare, which Games Workshop very kindly sent me a box early to build up and paint for all of you. And today we are painting the Mandrakes. Yes, the brand new Mandrakes, redesigned for a new era of Drukhari, one would assume. Now, they've all been primed in white Scar, and we're going to be painting the whole unit up. But what we're going to mostly be focusing on is on this guy. But if there's anything specifically like the shroud or whatever that comes up, we should of course be pointing that one out in this video as well. So, first colour we're going to be using is Guilliman Flesh. And we're going to be applying this over the top of their kind of stitched together flesh bits, which kind of act as a tabard. The bit that basically goes down the middle. Not all of the kind of cloth that they're wearing, because it is two different types of cloth, but we will be applying this over the top of this kind of central bit, just here, like this. With all of that Guilliman Flesh applied, we're now going to take some Gore Grunta Fur, and we're going to apply this over the top of all the remaining cloth. This is a kind of skirt, dress type thing, or sort of like capes. Basically, the rest of all the fabric. And next up, once all that Gore Grunta Fur is applied, we're then going to take some Flesh Tearers Red, and we're going to apply this over the top of any ropes or any like cable ties or things like that. There's a couple of these in the hair, for example, but mostly it is the ropes around their waists that kind of act like belts. So with that done, we're now going to take some Black Legion, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the Mandrake skin. You don't have to worry about avoiding any of those runes or anything like that on the skin. Just get this all over, including their faces, runes, arms, legs, heads, all that good stuff. With that Black Legion all applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Skeleton Horde, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the bones and skulls and bits of tooth or whatever that are kind of jammed through hairdos or bits of cloth, just like this one up here on the top knot. And with that Skeleton Horde applied, we're then going to take some Striking Scorpion Green, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of their flames across all of the miniatures. This is all the stuff that's kind of emanating from hands. And it doesn't matter too much if you get a little bit of this on the black, and if anything, it adds to the sort of glowy nature of it. And with that striking scorpion green applied, we're then going to take some thinned down iron warriors. We're going to apply this over the top of all of our metallic details. So mostly the blades and things like that. With that iron warriors applied to all of the blades, what we are then going to do is take some Leviathan Purple, and we're going to apply this over the top of the grips of all of their blades, just down here, like this. So next up, it's time to work on that shroud, and the colour we're going to be using first is some Sigvald Burgundy. We're going to be applying this over the top of all of it, including the inside and the outside. We just want to get this all over and try and get it nice and smooth as possible, but there are other colours coming to darken it down even further. So don't worry too much if it is a little bit splotchy in some places, because we'll be taking it down even further than this. Whilst that Sigvald Burgundy is drying, it's now time to add some shades, and the first of these is going to be some Berserker Bloodshade. We're going to apply this over the top of all of the Guilliman Flesh in those kind of tabardy bits, which is across all of them, and I realise that this one is a little bit hidden by the shroud, so it's clearly doing its job. With all that Berserker Bloodshade applied, we're then going to take some Nuln Oil, and we're going to apply this over a lot of different details, and this is our final base coat and shade. So we're applying this over the top of their hair across all of them, and we're also going to use this to shade all of the silver and all of the black skin as well. So it's almost all over, but obviously not quite. With that Nuln Oil all applied, we're then going to take some Reikland Fleshshade, and we're going to apply this over the top of the Gore Grunta Fur clothing, just to add a little bit of extra depth, and also just to kind of smooth it out and lock in that lovely colour across all of the cloaks / dresses. With all that Reikland Fleshshade applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Leviathan Purple, and we're going to apply this over the sort of flat areas in between the spines on the shroud. And we're going to do this across all of them, both inside and out. Although for the inside, it doesn't matter too much if you get this all over the inside of the shroud. It should be fine. But otherwise, on the outside, we're just going to avoid the kind of raised details, as you can see, like this. And we're just going for those recessed details. And don't worry if it's a little bit stark, because once again, we've got another shade left to go. So with all of that Leviathan Purple now dry, we're then going to take Carroburg Crimson. And we're going to apply this over the top of the entire shroud, And this is going to kind of move both the Sigvald Burgundy and the Leviathan Purple together. It's going to make it look pretty cool. So with all of those shades applied, our Mandrakes are now at what I would call a Warhipster battle ready, and I think they're looking pretty awesome. However, we are of course not going to leave them there. We are going to take them to the next level, and we're going to do this by adding some highlights. Now, the first of these highlights is going to be some thinned down Kislev Flesh, and we're going to be using this to highlight two different sections. So across all of them, we're going to be using this to highlight all of the Gore Grunta Fur areas. So it's still sort of a fleshy colour, but we're going to be applying this across all of the raised details and things like that, across all of those kind of skirts and cloaks and things like that. Just like this sort of thing. But what we're also going to be doing with the Kislev Flesh is going to be using this to add some very narrow highlights over the top of the Sigvald Burgundy areas, the spines, on the shroud. So just kind of bringing it down. You don't have to do the whole areas if you don't want to. You can just kind of stick to the sharpest areas, but if you feel confident, just run this all the way down. There's a nice narrow highlight across all of those spines on the shroudy bits. With all of that Kislev Flesh applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Dark Reaper. I'm going to be using this to highlight all of the black skin, but you don't have to worry about highlighting any of the runes, because that'll spend more time doing that than you necessarily need to, given as we're going to make them nice and glowy. So we're going to use this over the top of things like the smooth muscles and like the fingernails and knuckles and stuff like that. Now it might not look like it's doing very much, but it is adding a really nice base to when we do our next little spot highlight. With all of that Dark Reaper now applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Administratum Grey. We're going to use this to pick out the sharpest points in all of that black skin. So again, just adding a little dot of this over the top of fingernails and knuckles and stuff like that, but also just kind of around like the sharpest points in the muscles on the body and on the feet and such, as well as any facial details that you can get your brush into. A lot of them are quite swathed in hair, so you won't be able to see many of them. Still sticking with the skin, what we're now going to do is take some Flash Gitz Yellow, and we're going to thin this down with sort of 3 or 4 parts water, lots and lots of water to make it nice and runny, and we're going to drop this into those runes all the way around their bodies. Now it will dry a little bit darker than this, so it can look a little bit shocking at first, but don't worry, just be careful and take your time, and just make sure, like with this really thin stuff, you just kind of stick to the recesses, because it just kind of like it will flow into the recesses a little bit better, given as how thinned down it is, and it will kind of fill it up and make it sort of initially start that sort of glowy procedure. With that Flash Gitz Yellow all applied, we now need to confirm the glow by adding some Tesseract Glow. I'm going to apply this over the top of all of those Flash Gitz Yellow runes. This will just kind of bring down the yellow just a little bit, but also add a nice little green glow just to the edges of all of our runes. So with all of that Tesseract Glow applied, we're now going to take some Terradon Turquoise. We're going to do a bit of blending here on the flames. So towards the tips of all the flames, and in this guy, the tip is actually here underneath the other hand. We're going to apply the Terradon Turquoise all over the top of the flames, up to around about 2/3, just like that sort of thing. Apply just a little bit more up there. Then we're going to wash the brush and touch off the water so it's not drippy. And then we're just going to feather away at the transition so we don't get any hard drying lines. Just blending the two colours together. This adds a little bit of shadow to the flames, just a little bit of extra body there. And you can do this as many times as you like, depending on how dark you want it to go. 1 or 2 times should be enough though. Just like this sort of thing, so just follow this along over the top. And finally, just to finish things off, we're going to take some thinned down Ironbreaker. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the silver details. So with their bases complete, our Mandrakes are now finished, and well, they were really very simple to do. They look really daunting, very difficult at first, but I think once you break it down into its component parts, they're pretty simple to get done, and I really enjoyed painting them. So now that they're done, it's time to move on to Pyre and Flood after this. So yeah, well, the Generatorum Hub. Ah, so many videos. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/Warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done, scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.